Welcome to Glass Houses, a Billy Joel podcast. I'm Michael Grosvenor.
And I'm Jack Fernino. Join us as we dig deep into Billy Joel's songs and history and what his music has meant to us. Goodness. All right, one more letter. This one's an epic. It's a good one, though. Hi there. Post-production Jack here. After we recorded this episode, we decided to reach out to Joe and ask him to read this email himself because it was really, really well written and very personal. So it made a lot of sense to hear it in his voice.
Michael and Jack. So there's a lot I'm sifting through here. I've just listened to the From a Piano Man to an Innocent Man podcast. This was my first ever concert. I was 14, about to turn 15, and seeing this show was a pretty impactful experience and fueled my pursuit of music. Some background. I was born in 1969, the youngest of 5 children, 3 brothers and a sister. My oldest brother is 14 years older than me, and the closest is 7 years older. My siblings were all avid record collectors, and I grew up on a steady diet of exceptionally cool music, most foundationally the Beatles. I had access to albums by Neil Young, the Electric Light Orchestra, Elvis Costello, Simon and Garfunkel, Warren Zevon, and so many more. My mother played our piano every Saturday night, and I sat on the bench next to her, absorbing the Great American Songbook, Irving Berlin, George Gershwin, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and Cole Porter. My father's family was filled with French-Canadian folk musicians, so music was simply all around me. When I was 5, my Aunt Vi, who lived in an apartment above our house, sat me down at her piano and said, "I'm going to teach you something today." And she taught me a simple little piano tune called I Love Coffee, I Love Tea. I learned it well, and it was my parlor trick for years. When my parents had friends over for a party, I'd be roused from my bed in my pajamas to play my song. I'd also picked up Heart and Soul on piano from my brother Dan, so I practically had a show. My brother's friends called me Elton Joey. Dan also played a little guitar and was just all around cool. Growing up, I was not so cool. My life in the late 70s into the early 1980s was all about Star Wars, Boston Bruins hockey, the Red Sox, and Saturday Night Live. My real dive into music began with seeing an ELO concert on HBO from the Out of the Blue tour in 1978. ELO was amazing. It was as though the Beatles and Star Wars had had a baby. I also found ABBA from a K-Tel commercial for the Magic of ABBA compilation. I'd been in love with Olivia Newton-John, but now I gave my heart to a Swedish blonde, Agneta Faltskog. In late 1982, the song Pressure comes out, and I loved it. I knew Billy Joel from my brother Dan's record collection. He had The Stranger and Glass Houses. I saved some money, and I bought the 45 at Murphy's Music Store on Main Street in Biddeford, Maine. I grabbed Allentown shortly afterward and asked for the album for Christmas. On February 13th, 1983, I found my Aunt Vi, my first piano teacher, dead from a heart attack on the floor of her apartment. I was a month away from turning 14, and I'm still unpacking how this has affected me more than 40 years later in counseling. My brother Dan was a ski bum, in a good way. He was working as a bartender at Loon Mountain Ski Resort in New Hampshire, so he would ski during the day and bartend at night and really have an all-around good life as a single guy in his early 20s. For my birthday, and to help ease the grief of his little brother, he took me to stay with him in New Hampshire to ski for a couple of days. My first time skiing. One of the nights that weekend, I was left alone in his apartment while he went out to the pubs with his friends. I had the nylon curtain and now spent the night listening to The Stranger and Glass Houses over and over again. When I got home, I started spending money earned helping my dad in his carpentry business to build my own album collection in earnest. Songs in the Attic, Street Life Serenade, more ELO and ABBA, tons of new wave. I was teaching myself to play, and I didn't suck. July 1983, and HBO concerts strike again. Billy Joel, live from Long Island. Musicians often talk about the moment they saw their destiny when the Beatles played The Ed Sullivan Show in February of 1964. This was my Ed Sullivan moment. Prelude, Angry Young Man. How the fuck could anyone do that? To borrow a phrase you fellows often use, this was when I came online. I wanted to play music. None of my friends played instruments. They were all jocks, and despite my pleas, they refused to buy guitars and drums, learn to play them, and start a band. I did have my friends listening to music with me, though. We had a finished basement with a pool table, a table hockey game, a poker table, and the family piano, plus my stereo with lots of albums to listen to. Even a color TV set, which could alternate between the Bruins game and my Atari 2600. Have I sold you on the fact that I'm Generation X yet? Summer, 1983, and an Innocent Man LP shows up at Murphy's Music, which I proceeded to buy before I'd even heard a single. MTV wouldn't be picked up by our local cable company for another year, and that was a controversial decision opposed by many parents and teachers. My best friend, Guy Duquette, and I ran home and put it on the record player, waiting for more nylon curtain sophistication and piano wizardry. It's not there. It sounds pleasant, polished, but this isn't the sound I was expecting or frankly cared for. I remember clearly being 14 and confused and thinking, why don't I love this? It had no resonance with me. All my friends had me labeled as this big Billy Joel fan who could even play some of the songs on the piano, but something had changed. They all assumed I must be loving this new music. I went through the same thing many years later when The Phantom Menace was released. You must love having a new Star Wars movie. That Jar Jar looks like such a cool character. I had a recent discussion with a musician friend about this jumping of the shark moment with an Innocent Man. I said it was like Huey Lewis took over the E Street Band. The gravitas and forward progress was gone. I love 50s and 60s music. I love well-crafted pop music, but the jump from intelligent songwriter to celebrity pop star wasn't a journey I was interested in. I think of the divergent paths of Billy and Paul Simon, who is about to embark on Graceland and Rhythm of the Saints, and I wonder what might have been if Billy hadn't made that album. Who knows? Everything he released after that seemed much more polished and slick, and I found myself in the 80s and 90s following Elvis Costello, Joe Jackson, and XTC as I tried to develop my own songwriting. But back to the Innocent Man tour. Portland, Maine has a minor league hockey team, the Maine Mariners, AAA affiliate of the Philadelphia Flyers. I went to a lot of games, and at the ticket windows, the Cumberland County Civic Center had a booklet every month listing the events coming to the arena. Lots of concerts and hockey games. One late fall day, there was Billy Joel on the calendar. I told my brother Dan about it, and he picked up 4 tickets. 2 close to the stage for him and a friend, and 2 in the nosebleed section for me and my best friend, Guy Duquette. I'd been listening to the new album, so I knew the songs. I was mostly hoping he'd play a lot of the old stuff, which thankfully he did. There was only one song in the set I didn't recognize. I took a couple of pictures at the show with my mother's camera, which I'd brought. The pictures are terrible, mostly black with a tiny white speck in the corner, which was Billy under a spotlight. I remember there was an intermission, and leaving my seat to walk closer to the side of the stage where I could see Billy's piano. That would have made a better picture. After the concert, we walked over to my brother Dan's friend's apartment where he left Guy and I to hang out while he and his friend hit the pubs again on a busy Friday night. I dug through the friend's album collection looking for Billy stuff I didn't have yet, and he had The Stranger, Glass Houses, and 52nd Street, which I did not have. I found the one song I didn't know, Stiletto, and bought my own copy soon after. So yeah, I bought the sweatshirt, which said From a Piano Man to an Innocent Man, and wore it as a high school freshman along with black parachute pants and checkered Vans. I started playing in my first band and writing my first songs. When I got out of high school, I was in a better band, and I wrote better songs, and I dreamed of recording. In college, I dove deep into songwriting, and in my early 20s, I was working in a recording studio, doing lots of session work in a vibrant local music scene. I joined a band with amazing songwriters, and we put out 4 albums, and I took my best shot. At 35, I saw the writing on the wall and gave up my goal of making a living as a singer-songwriter. In 2010, I was developing a show for Rock Band and Orchestra, which would become Piano Men, the music of Elton and Billy. No Vegas-style costumes or look-alike shenanigans, just a suit and trying my best to play music I love as faithfully as possible. My drummer, who I'd played with for years, couldn't commit to the pilot show I was planning with a university orchestra, so on a whim, I reached out to Liberty DeVito through his MySpace page. On the page, he said he did lots of studio work, so here's how to reach me, and, quote, hey, I might even play a gig with you. On May 7th, 2011, I took my spot at the Baby Grand Piano on the stage of the packed State Theater in Portland, Maine, 2 blocks from where I saw my first concert in 1984. I looked to my right at Mr. Liberty DeVito on the drums, just like he was on that HBO concert, and we lit into Prelude, Angry Young Man. I've been playing concerts around the country for the past 13 years and consider myself blessed. I still have a day job in music, but a few dozen nights a year, I get to play music I love. This song represents the most terrifying moment in my life as a musician. It's gotten so much better since this one. If you've made it this far, thanks for reading. Joe.
And what a story. I was like along for the ride the whole way.
Dude, I hope you like writing more of this stuff because like I want to hear about you being in the recording studio and all. So check out pianomenmusic.com. Let's see if they got any shows coming up. Oh, these are in Maine. Okay. I can't make it up to New England. Maybe I will. Put something on in the winter, man. I don't know. New England's got to be real nice, right?
Yeah.
In the wintertime. I'll take a trip. Saturday, January 27th. I think I'm playing that night. Friday, I'm definitely playing the 26th. Well, shoot. All right. I had a gig canceled on the 27th. If I don't backfill it, I'll somehow try to make it up to Maine. That'll be stupid of me, but I'll do it. He's got some cool stuff here. pianomenmusic.com.
We love hearing these kind of stories and everyone's journey. You know, hearing the trajectory of Joe as a Billy fan. I get it. I've been there with every artist that I love where, you know, you're so excited about a new record and it comes out and it doesn't grab you and you almost feel guilty about it. But, you know, you still hang in because the body of work is so strong that even though the new thing may not grab you as much, everything else still does. You know, here he is 40 years later, still deeply attached to Billy's music, which is awesome.
And it's a very clear-eyed assessment of everything, too, which is cool. All right. Well, that is a fantastic capstone to this year's email bag.